Okay, part 10. Here we go.
These warrants. Can you generally sum those up?
The one I was told about was after the shooting on the day of the incident, Greg McMichael posted something on Facebook that Travis McMichael had been involved in a shooting. It was at this point that a Glenn County PD officer sent a Facebook instant message to Greg McMichael saying, hey, call me, and provided his phone number. And that's when Greg McMichael called him. The officer in question did not know that Greg McMichael was directly involved in the incident at the time that he sent the message. This officer was a friend of Travis, and he was concerned when he saw it on Facebook.
You remember that officer's name?
Officer Cooper, I believe, sir.
And did Officer Cooper and Greg McMichael then have a phone conversation?
They did, yes, sir.
Has Officer Cooper told you what Greg McMichael said to him on the phone?
He has.
And generally, what was that?
Generally, it was similar to what his statements had already given. I don't remember.
And no inconsistency?
No, sir.
No contradictions?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Now, I'm not going to have you get that map out, but we're generally familiar with all the not that many streets in Satilla Shores.
No.
And you can enter that subdivision off of Highway 17 in at least maybe only two ways. One is Zellwood Drive and one is Satilla Drive, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So when you enter off Zellwood from Highway 17 and you can come...
I would hope they get the map of where he lives, or where his mother lives, not where he lives. I'm still confused on whether he lives with his mother or not. Because at first when it came out, he lived 12 miles away in another place. Now all of a sudden he lives with his mom. I think this is probably for the civil suit. But I'd like to know if they did a search warrant of Arbery's house to find out if he was on meds. Because most people, even murder victims, you do a search warrant and you go search. You're looking for clues to what led up, if there was previous contacts, if there was prior, people out to get him. You just want to get a hold of where the victim was to determine whether there's a connection or there's not a connection to this. But I would think if they were really doing a good job, they would do a search warrant and look for things in Mr. Arbery's house and room that possibly was stolen from that house that he was in, if they wanted to find the truth. My guess is they did not do that. And if they didn't, as a defense attorney, I'd be asking why.
Up to the intersection of Satilla Drive, you can turn right on Satilla and go down past...
Oh, I missed my point. If you get a map on where he lived or where he used to live or where his mom lives, is it a straight route to this house? Is it off the path? Is there a lot of turns? Is there an easier path? Was he trying to get back home? I mean, those things will all be on how far he ran, how far was he going, why was he taking a break. I mean, if his mom only lives like 2 blocks from the house, is it reasonable that he would need to take a break and get a drink in a house if it was only 2 blocks away from where he started running? Of course not. So that's how that thing could be tied in to whether or not it's reasonable on what this guy was doing and the narrative that they're trying to explain. Is this the last place he stopped? Is he almost home? That would be like he could get a drink of water at home. Why would he be going in there to get a drink of water? If it's the halfway mark, maybe, but it's still not his water. He's trespassing, and he's got no permission to take it or to be on there.
Past where the English house is, where the McMichael house is, and all that, right? You want to look at the map?
Well, if you come off Zellwood, you would turn down Holmes, or there's another street that you could turn down.
Well, Zellwood, one end of Zellwood terminates right there at Highway 17. You have a map?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you come down Zellwood to go to Larry English's house, you would have to turn down a side street and then get to Satilla.
Okay.
If you follow what I'm saying, sir.
But that little side street, does it have a name?
Yes, you could turn down Holmes, or you can turn down Jones Road.
Okay, but before you get to Jones or Holmes Road, wouldn't you cross Satilla Drive on Zellwood?
Oh, that's what you're saying. Yes, yes, sir. You could come off that road and go with it. Yes,
so
sir.
We're tracking.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I thought you meant going on further down.
Now, what I'm trying to get at is this. You can say you're coming down 17, you can turn right.
This defense attorney is doing a good job of not becoming adversarial with this guy. He's saying he's not trying to trick him. He's being pretty polite. He's giving him a lot of leeway. He says, I'm not going to hold you to it. He's making this cop a pretty cooperative witness to him, and he's not putting this cop on defensive, which is a good defense technique. because you want the cop to be more relaxed. If he thinks you're trying to get him or catch him, or, I mean, I've had some attorneys, as soon as I walk in a courtroom and I see who's defending the guy, I'm like, oh shit, not this guy. We hate each other. Ah, Detective Gore. And how are you today? I mean, it's just, you just know it's going to be a shitstorm when you get somebody like that. This attorney is doing a good job at keeping this civil and appearing to just be fact gathering versus trying to, I got you.
That would be if you were heading southeast on 17. You could turn right onto Zellwood, come up to Satilla, turn right on Satilla, and then you'd be headed down toward the English House, McMichael House, and
You could, yes.
all the streets where all this happened.
You could, yeah.
Or you
I gotta pause this. I'm out of iced tea. Hang on. Holy shit, it's 7 o'clock. I've been on this damn computer on my Sunday for the last 7 hours. I can't believe it. Oh, crap. All right, here we go. I went out and checked on my water locks on my cutting board, and it's drying. I opened the garage because it's 7 o'clock now. That's cooling down. And I caught a damn scorpion coming out of the garage, man. I can't stand scorpions. I've only found like 3 or 4 in the last 7 or 8 years, but still, I don't like them. So I had to chase him and kill him. I don't want the Society for the Protection of Scorpions coming here writing hate mail because I killed some freaking scorpion. Just go sling your craziness somewhere else. Anyway, back to courtroom craziness.
You could keep going down 17 and you could just turn right on Satilla Drive and then go on into the subdivision that way, right?
I believe so, sir.
Okay.
I think you might have lost me a little bit here in that.
Well, here's what I'm going to get at with that set of questions. All the streets we're talking about, Zellwood, Satilla, Jones Road, Holmes Road, there's Burford.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all the streets in issue here.
Yes.
I put a fan on too, so if you hear a little bit of wind noise, it's because I put a fan because I'm upstairs. Upstairs always gets hotter, and I'm on the west room where my computer's at. So upstairs on the west sun, it's hot in here, and I've been kind of like sweating, so I've got a fan on. Hopefully it's not too loud on the mic.
Have you been around, meaning you and all your law enforcement agents, been around to knock on every door on all those streets to ask the residents if they saw anything or if they have surveillance cameras in their homes pointed at the street?
Yes, sir, I believe so. We did a thorough neighborhood canvass of Satilla Shores, as well as the area where Mr. Arbery lives, as well as the next subdivision over.
And in that neighborhood canvas, can you tell us what questions you asked everybody? And did you ask the same questions? And what were they?
Asking the same
All
questions.
right, good deal. Sticking just with Satilla Shores, though, are you saying that you and your agents in this canvassing have indeed gone to every house in there on these streets that we're talking about?
I believe so, sir. I'd have to check the map that we did. So we did a thorough canvass of that.
If you did, do you have statements and contacts for every residence? Because you would know. If you're a trained investigator, you know what houses you've hit. What happens when you knocked on the door and the people weren't home? Did you keep a record of that? Did you say you want to go back? Did you go back? For him to be hemming and hawing here, it's telling me they didn't keep records, they didn't do it, they didn't ID everybody they talked to. That's what I'm guessing. And that's just a swag. I know, people be here. Rick, you don't know it. You can't say that. You're just picking on the cop because he's follically challenged. Whatever.
And the mission of the canvass was what I just said, to ask residents, did you see or hear anything, and do you have surveillance cameras, and can we look at them?
And if you've seen Ahmaud Arbery running in the neighborhood.
And have you seen them already running in your neighborhood?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you find anyone in that canvassing who said, yeah, I saw something relevant to the day in question, February 23rd? Other than the people we've already talked
About, thank you. Not any that saw the event occur. I do not believe so. We asked about surveillance video. There was none other that we gathered from those inquiries involving surveillance video of the area.
Did you keep a track of everybody you contacted and what they told you? Do you have a record of that?
Like I said, we did uncover people that saw Ahmaud Arbery running in the neighborhood in the past.
Okay, so nobody saw or heard anything other than the people we've talked about.
Of the actual incident, yes,
Right.
I believe.
And
The reason why a log's important is because the defense now can read who said what, and if they send their investigator out to talk to these people and recontact them, they'll say, did the police contact you on this day? What did they ask you? Well, they asked me if I thought my neighbor was racist. Oh, well, that wasn't on their questionnaire. How convenient that was left off. So they need to corroborate whether or not the cops asked what they said they asked, and if the cops wrote down what the people tell them they wrote down. So all those people need to be recontacted. And the houses that weren't contacted, that they can't show proof of, the defense has to have the right to go see if maybe they've got video evidence. So the fact that he doesn't say, we contacted them, we kept a log, every officer did a report on everybody they talked to, who they contacted, who they didn't contact, and what they said and what their statement was. That's all in the report. That's a neighborhood canvass done professionally and correct. Since this cop didn't say that, I'm thinking they did the chicken shit easy way. Yeah, we knocked on every door and we looked. Yeah, I think we contacted everybody. Yeah, I don't think anybody else saw anything. Those are all bullshit answers. Again, loss of credibility. He's going to look weak in front of a jury that questions cops and go, do I really believe anything that comes out of this guy's mouth?
That heard. What, we did find people that heard the gunshots. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Fair enough. Tell me about the collection of any surveillance video. How many surveillance videos from homes in the neighborhood do you have?
Of the neighborhood, 1, 2, 3, I believe 4 to 5, but I'd have to check of what we have that we could stitch together the path.
Okay. And have you begun the process of taking those 4 or 5 videos and trying to make one whole?
We have. Yes, sir. That's been accomplished with the exception of Mr. Bryan's video has to be incorporated in it. So we
And
didn't get
getting
this
those 4 or 5, there's Bryant's, there's who? Diego Perez?
No, sir. I don't think no, sir. We got video from Mr. English's house, from the gentleman across the street from Mr. English's house, from Mr. Bryan's house. There's at least one other surveillance video that's along the path.
Do you know which street that one?
Not without referring to it. That's something that Glenn County PD had obtained the day this occurred. And there may be one other, I'm not sure, along the same, that would show just running.
So the others that you can't remember whose they are, they just show Ahmaud Arbery running?
Yes, sir. At the time of the incident, yes, sir.
Do you know if any of those that show Ahmaud Arbery just running are on Zellwood Drive or Satilla Drive at any point off of Highway 17 before he would have arrived at the English house? Follow my question?
Yes, sir. No, it would be the video that first picked him up on Satilla Drive was the neighbor across the street. And as I specified earlier, you see him come into frame prior to arriving at the English house, and I can't estimate how far it is, and you see him going into the English's house.
I know the one you're talking about. I'm tracking with you there. But just to make sure we nail it down.
I find it just interesting on how he's sitting now versus when he was sitting at the start. Remember I pointed out he was straight, not leaning back, off the edge of his chair, looking directly at the DA? His demeanor has seriously changed. I'm not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent, but it's noticeable.
You haven't found any surveillance video prior to that one at that point?
That's correct, sir.
Okay.
Somebody with a body expert would say he's creating distance from his adversary. He's not being truthful. He doesn't want to sit up straight and, like he did with the DA, forward and get closer to him. He wants to create distance. I'm not saying that's true. Don't come here and try, Rick, you're just making that up. And I'm just telling you, freaking crybabies, you got to come here and cry and shit. I need to start giving out freaking pacifiers to some of these commenters.
Now, I'm going to ask this, you know, I'm doubting you have this, but I actually been in a case with the GBI before where this was discussed. Have you attempted to, or think it's possible to, find satellite video that would have captured the scene that day?
I have not made that nor considered that to be a possibility.
You're thinking about it now?
You brought it up, sir, so I'm sure I'll be exploring it.
Let us know if you find anything.
Okay.
This is a way for the defense to send the prosecution, let them spend their time and money finding evidence that could possibly help them. It also makes it, if you say no, when I ask you this in front of a jury, and then I ask you why not, don't you want to get to the truth? If that evidence is out there, don't you think it's reasonable that as a prosecutor, you should want to have that to really know that we have the truth and the facts and to cooperate? So if he hasn't tried to do that, probably should.
That's all I have.
All right. Do you have any other questions, Jim?
I have a few questions. No, I would note I appreciate the court's patience today. Because it all started about 8:30, but from the perspective of Mr. Bryan, his defense starts at 3:08 p.m. Sir, can you see me, Mr. Dodd? I reckon you can't see me.
I cannot see you, Mr. Goff.
Yeah, I'm going to move over to the part over there by the table, I guess. Yeah, I gotta watch that.
Oh shit! Lawyer down. He tripped. Rick, he can't even walk. Why is he? All right, whatever. He tripped. People make mistakes. Come on, don't be a hard ass on these poor little liberal left-wing attorneys that are trying to get their guilty clients off. See, that's how a lot of cops see defense attorneys. I thought they were good defense attorneys. I thought they were good. They made me better, and they held government in check. They're a needed process. Anybody that says crooks shouldn't have attorneys have never been in a case or seen somebody get railroaded, because it's BS when you got a crap attorney. And I might add, crap attorneys are pretty easy to find. Rick, you can't say that. Whatever.
Mr. Dodd, I think you had more hair the last time we were in this courtroom.
I probably did, Mr. Goff. I agree with you.
Oh, man, he just went to the ball thing with me. Yo, brother, this is my attorney right here. Shit, I got to high-five him. You go, boy.
Fair enough. Sir, I will try not to ask too many questions. My first question is this. Is there any evidence of racial animus on the part of Ronnie Ryan against Mr. Arbery?
Specifically against Mr. Arbery or in general?
That's the first question, specifically against Mr. Arbery.
I've seen no communications involving that with in regards to Mr. Arbery. No, sir.
Very good. Is your investigation uncovering any evidence that race played a role in the actions of Ronnie Ryan on 2/23/20?
Well, it's going to be hard to answer no when you freaking charged his ass.
Mr. Goff, I'm trying to answer your question as thoroughly as I can. Revealed, as far as my opinion of motive.
See, this is where we're reaching. This is where you lose credibility. Who thinks this cop is trying not to say the wrong thing and is tiptoeing about not hurting his case instead of just spitting out the damn truth?
Motivation and reasons behind actions?
Well, I'll take your opinion first.
Yes, sir, it did.
You believe it did?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, following up on your opinion, is there any evidence that race played a role in the actions of Ronnie Bryan on 2/23/20?
There's evidence that of Roddy Bryan's racist attitude in his communications.
Okay.
And from that,
Oh, so we charged him with a crime because he has a racist attitude. What penal code section is that?
I extrapolate the reason why he made assumptions he did that day of what was occurring. He saw a man running down the road with a truck falling, and I believe he made certain assumptions that were at least in part based upon his racial bias.
All right. You're familiar with the concept of implicit bias?
I'm not an attorney, sir.
Okay. All right. Let me be more specific. Did your investigation uncover any trash talk on social media by Mr. Bryan against Mr. Arbery or his family or anybody else?
No, sir.
Okay. And we'll get into some of the details later, but it's fair to say that Mr. Bryan gave you access to approximately 5 years' worth of posts on social media.
Yes, sir. He was cooperative and gave us access to everything.
So we don't have any racist talk on there, do we?
Not in social media. There was on his phone communication.
On his phone? Okay. And, of course, he gave you consent to search his phone, did he not?
He did, yes, sir.
Twice? On May 11th and May 13th?
I believe so. I think there was some issue with getting access to the phone, I believe. But I was not involved in the download of the phone. Again, technology is not, I'm not the most conversant in that. And I have.
Why would anybody give somebody consent to search their phone and social media? This is government. They are not searching your phone or your social media to help you. They are only searching to find evidence to charge you. Why the hell would you give consent to them? Come on, people. These damn knuckleheads have been watching me. They'd probably be better off right now.
I had another agent that was assisting with that.
Okay. Well,
He was very cooperative in providing the phone. Yes, sir.
well, we may disagree about the law here, but on the facts, we seem to largely be in agreement, if I'm judging it correctly. Did you find then something on his phone that you found troubling with respect to whether this case involves racial animus?
I did, yes, sir.
Can you tell us what that is?
There were various comments that Mr. Bryan made concerning race, using racial derogative terms, statements that he made in reference to, I think he was at an airport, and he said it's great, there's not as many, and he used a racial term up here, stuff that I felt showed his viewpoint and bias that I believe, based upon my opinion, played a role in how he interpreted what he saw that day and the actions he took.
Jesus Christ, man, this cop just made a freaking buttload of assumptions. I saw a post that led me to believe what he was thinking and why he thought he saw what he saw and his actions. Are you freaking... How the hell is that going to get in court? Jesus Christ.
But we can agree that people's life experiences do affect how they see things.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
All right. And is it fair to say that there were several thousand Facebook posts over that 5-year period?
I believe there was a lot, yes, sir. Like I said, I didn't count it. But
When he says personal experiences, that means if a woman was raped and she has a problem with men after that, could that be justifiable? Does it mean that she was a man-hater before she was raped? So if a person is attacked by black people 2 or 3 times in their life, and now they have a problem with black people, is that reasonable? Or does that just automatically make him a mean, evil person that hates black people when he wants to go out and kill them? I mean, it's just crazy at the leaps we make nowadays.
there was a lot of posts, a lot of
And
information.
thousands of texts on this telephone.
There was a lot of information, yes, sir.
Okay. And how many of these suspect or questionable communications do you identify?
Well, again, I've had intel analysts trying to keep track of it. I am personally aware of several. I can't give you a number.
So fairly, we're talking about several texts out of several thousand.
Yes, sir, but I don't have a complete number of how many are going to be involved in racial talk. I was made aware of several that I personally found very disturbing concerning the references that were made. As far as the total number of texts, I do not have a number for that.
All right. Of course, those communications are also not, however regrettable and unfortunate, not all that uncommon in the South, are they?
I will tell you, sir, there were terms that he used that I've never encountered before in my experience for racial term he used. As far as the generality of racial comments, I don't know, Mr. Goff.
I suspect there are people in this courtroom who can educate you about a whole lot of inappropriate terms. That's a conversation for a different day. Next question for you is this.
The DA should objective. Your Honor, was that a question? Because this attorney and him know each other, so they've got a relationship. They kind of trust each other. He's asking questions on a friendly May. He's taking down his defenses, and he's trying to get information out there that he wants. He's not really trying to trip this guy up. This guy feels comfortable with him. So, I mean, there's a little bit of banter going on, which is okay. I mean, sometimes when you get along with an attorney, that happens.
The Clinton County Police Department received consent from Mr. Ryan, did they not, to fingerprint the vehicle?
They did, yes, sir.
In fact, they did that.
They did, yes, sir.
Took photographs, whole 9 yards.
Yes, sir, they did.
Have we determined whether Mr. Arbery's fingerprints are in fact on Mr. Ryan's vehicle?
Whoa, here it comes. I'm glad one of the attorneys got it.
The fingerprints have been submitted to our lab. However, I do believe, based upon the Glenn County report, they did the analysis of the prints they lifted that it's going to be a palm print. We have been unable to locate any palm prints for Mr. Arbery, but I have sent, because Mr. Brian and another individual who had access to the truck has provided palm prints, so we've sent those up with the fingerprints to rule them out as the possible contributors to the palm print.
Very good. And that's right. Mr. Brian and his fiancee
Yes.
consented and gave you their finger and palm prints, did they not?
They did, yes, sir.
All right. Where was Mr. Harberry's motor vehicle located at the time of the shooting?
I want you to know that all this cooperation and niceness and consent, and they tried to help you and they were very cooperative. Guess where that guy's at? He's still in freaking jail.
At the exact time of the shooting, I do not know, sir. We have spoken to neighbors who indicated that he routinely kept the motor vehicle at the front yard of his residence, that it would often, he would run so he wouldn't drive it very often, and the battery would go dead, and he would borrow jumper cables, jump it off, and let it run for a little bit, but apparently he was very much in the practice of running to different locations versus driving the car.
Okay. Well, eventually you did locate the motor vehicle, did you not?
I don't know if one of my agents have laid eyes on the motor vehicle or not. I don't know, sir.
Well, certainly there's no evidence that Mr. Arbery had a whole bunch of other people's things in his car, right?
Oh, and as far as I know, yes, sir. Yes,
You
sir.
found no evidence?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Very good. You have seen the full video that was provided by Mr. Ryan to the Glenn County Police Department on February 23rd?
I have, yes, sir.
All right. Both in that video and the one that was released by someone other than Mr. Bryan,
Yes, sir.
there appears Mr. Arbery dropped something along the way prior to being shot. Have you located that item?
There was discussion about dropping something. I didn't see him drop anything. I had an agent look, and there was a stick, I believe, that he identified as what people were alleging was a hammer or something along those lines.
Okay.
My agent reviewed the video. It's he says what they're identifying as a hammer is not, and that was his analysis of it.
Okay, but they did on the video, they did confirm that he was carrying what looked to be a stick.
That I do not know. I know there was discussion of it being a hammer that's on the road. They're saying drop, and my agent said no, that is a stick that's on the road.
Well, we know there's a lot of information, facts out there supposedly that we all know aren't really true.
That's correct, sir.
So there's no hammer.
No, sir.
All right. Did we see someplace in evidence a stick on the side of the road?
No, sir.
Why the hell not? If he had a weapon, is a stick a weapon? Rick, it's just a stick. I can stick a stick in your eye and blind you. I can shove it down your throat and choke you. I can shove it in your trachea. Don't tell me a stick ain't a weapon. It's a better weapon than a pencil, and I can kill you with a pencil. So he was armed with a weapon, and he was punching and fighting, trying to take a shotgun, and these cops didn't think that was important, even though it was on video. He had it in his hand. What else did he have in his hand? Maybe he stole that stick. Maybe that stick could be tracked back to the house that he was in. No. We didn't see it. No, we didn't take it. You guys are they're not incompetent. They're trying to only find evidence that supports their case, and it's going to end up biting them in the ass.
Then I think we don't have any fingerprints of this stick.
No, sir.
Very good.
Just for GP, you ask that question and you make it sound like they should have checked, but the odds of getting a fingerprint off a stick, unless it's very smooth bark, is probably slim to none and slim left town. But, you know, you asked the question, they should have tried. If it was a bat, yeah, it's a little bit smoother, sanded down, it might hold a print. May have a coat of lacquer over it, etc.
There were some questions earlier about the autopsy in this case. Have you read the autopsy?
I have, yes, sir.
And did you read it prior to taking the warrants on May 8th and May 21st?
I did, yes, sir. May 7th, I believe.
May 7th, I'm sorry. Are there any wounds, markings, or other observations or conclusions in the autopsy report that would be relevant to the prosecution of Mr. Bryan?
Other than what I've already described as far as the wound placement?
I'm not going to go over the gunshot wounds. That's already been covered. Is there anything else of value to this court or any court in this autopsy?
Not that I can recall at this point, Mr. Call.
Okay.
I didn't see the autopsy report. Was Mr. Arbery under the influence? Did he have prescription drugs, marijuana, or any other illegal drug in his system, or mental health drugs? I didn't see the autopsy. Somebody wants to put a link. I'll read it.
Are there any videos of the shooting of Ahmaud Arbery from any other angles other than the one from which Mr. Bryan took his video?
The only one I've seen is the one from Mr. Bryan. There are allegedly another video. We have a witness who said that she had observed a video on Greg McMichael's cell phone that was from a different perspective, but we have not been able to substantiate that.
Do we know who this witness is?
We do, yes.
So the only video of the shooting they have is from the guy that's in jail that was cooperative, that was following, that gave him his phone and gave him his social media passwords and was completely cooperative. He's in jail, charged with felonies, and gave the only video of this thing. Is that good or bad? I don't know. It depends.
She's been interviewed, and she gave us that statement, but she was not sure that she didn't think it was from the same angle as the one that Mr. Bryan provided, but she was not 100% sure of that, but she didn't think so, which was one of the reasons why we sought a search warrant to search Mr. McMichael's phone to find out if the video he has on his phone that she saw is the one that he obtained from Mr. Bryan.
Are there security or safety reasons why you don't feel comfortable disclosing this person's name?
No, I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
Fair enough, okay. Are there any other eyewitnesses to the shooting besides Mr. Bryan?
This is Greg McMichael. It would be the only other eyewitness, and Travis McMichael that I'm aware of.
Okay.
The three people in jail that the prosecution has charged, so he can turn one of them against the other one to get a better deal, so they can hang one guy. Why? Because the governor called this guy's boss.
So is there any evidence that Ronnie Ryan was armed during the events of February 23rd?
Mr. Bryan, no evidence of that, but he was allowed to leave the scene, I believe, before.
Fair enough.
Yes.
But you are aware, at least generally, of polygraph results for Mr. Bryan.
I'm aware that a private polygraph was given, but I personally don't put a lot of weight in those, Councilman.
Well, I understand that.
Oh, you don't put a lot of weight in a polygraph. Excuse me. Did you have to take a polygraph to get hired? So the government requires and relies on polygraphs to hire police officers, but if it helps the defendant, you don't give a whole lot of weight to it. Okay, yeah, you're not biased. You're not biased at all.
But that polygraph examination indicated that Mr. Bryan was unarmed. At the time, do you have any evidence to the contrary at this point in your investigation?
Judge, I'm going to object to that. It's not relevant, and polygraph tests are not admissible under Georgia law, absent certain conditions.
And I haven't tendered them. But I'm trying to verify with the DVI that they were able to verify that those results are consistent with their investigation.
You can ask the question.
I know nothing that would refute the statement that he was unarmed, that I have been able to collect so far in this investigation.
And is your investigation consistent with the polygraph results to the extent that there's no evidence that Mr. Bryan was in communication either with McMichaels or anyone else prior to the shooting that day about anything going on in the neighborhood?
Prior to the shooting, I do not have any evidence that would refute that. That's correct at this point.
Well, you must have a feeling because you stuck in your testimony that he was allowed to leave the scene, so I don't know if he was armed or not, implying that he had a chance to get rid of a gun. You didn't imply that Mr. Arbery, who was fleeing a crime scene while out jogging after committing a crime, you didn't imply that he could have took something and he was out of sight and he could have got rid of it, but you're going to imply that the person in jail that you want to convict got to leave the crime scene and maybe he got rid of a gun. Man, your bias is freaking outrageous.
Now, going back in time, Mr. Bryan submitted voluntarily to an interview with the Glenn County Police Department at the scene of the shooting on February 23rd, did he not?
He did, yes, sir.
And he invited Officer Bitchute to come, Officer Bitchute, come sit in his car and look at the video in his car.
Yes, that's correct.
And there's been some question about the number of videos. The first video in this case that was released to the public, that is a video that was actually prepared or produced by the Glenn County Police Department themselves.
It was, yes, sir. Officer Minshew, and it's reflected on his body cam, attempts to cut the video down to what he figured was the relevant portion so that he could transmit the video from the phone to a place, I'm assuming email it or text it, to a place where they could gain access to it. I believe he was unsuccessful, which is the reason why, or one of the reasons why a download was requested and granted by Mr. Bryan of the phone to extract the full video. But it captured both videos because they'd already been created.
But this isn't a case where we're questioning at this point the authenticity of the video made by Mr. Bryan.
No, sir, I am not.
There's no evidence Mr. Bryan has edited or altered any videos in this case.
Not that I'm aware of.
After speaking with the police at the scene of the crime, Mr. Bryan voluntarily goes to the Glenn County Police Department to interview him.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And you've given a lot of testimony today. Basically, there's a statement on the scene to Officer Mitchell. There's a statement to the Glenn County Police Department. Now, there's two subsequent statements on May 11th and May 13th with Agent Jason Seacrest at your temporary operational headquarters or whatever?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
As a cop, you got to be careful when an attorney starts what I call giving positive or repeating testimony to you, and they get you to say yes, 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 and then they sneak in a no question. And you've been saying yes so damn much that you kind of agree with it without thinking, and he gets you. And they'll do that in front of a jury. So you notice the last 5 or 6 questions are yes. I haven't seen this video. I don't know what's coming. But normally when they do that, they're about to slip something in that isn't yes.
The first statement to the two statements to the Glenn County Police and the 2 statements to the GBI, are they all basically consistent?
Yes, sir. I would agree with that. They're basically consistent.
There's no question in this case as to whether Mr. Bryan has ever lied or attempted to deceive your agency or any other about this matter.
I've got no evidence that he has lied.
Then I'm going to save you going through each statement, all that stuff. We've been here a long time. But basically, Mr. Bryan has fully cooperated with your investigation.
He has, yes, sir.
Is there anything that he's requested, anything that's been asked of him that he's been unwilling to do?
Not that I'm aware of, no, sir.
Okay. Who was it that alerted the GBI to the existence of the security camera at his house?
He did.
Okay. And who was it that invited you all to his house?
He did.
And when the Glenn County Police Department interviewed Ronnie Ryan,
he's painting a picture that not only was his client cooperative, he has nothing to lie. You don't have any evidence. Why the hell did you charge him? This guy probably is making the best case to not hold him over. He's going to get held over because it's political. But legally, he probably shouldn't be held over. This is a bullshit charge and case on him.
February 23rd. Did they ask him what was said after the shooting?
No, sir, they did not. Not that I recall.
Did y'all ask, or did Mr. Bryan bring that to your attention on May 13th?
I believe Mr. Brown brought it to our attention.
Okay. But for Mr. Bryan's cooperation, there's a good likelihood evidence would have been lost or not discovered in this case.
I don't know about that, Councilman.
Okay. Very good. Let's talk about the motor vehicle. Mr. Bryan gave consent to the Boone County Police Department the day of the shooting to fingerprint and examine his vehicle, correct?
He did, yes, sir.
And, of course, he gave consent, I'm sorry, back up. He gave consent for y'all to search his car, his house, everything you wanted for firearms, and you've done that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. On the motor vehicle, did you ask to search the event data recorder on this motor vehicle?
I did, yes, sir.
And what does that do?
That's the computer system within the vehicle. It would log different information in reference to the vehicle. It's a computer brain of the vehicle. It can log all sorts of information. And we can gain access to that and possibly gain relevant data concerning speed, direction of travel, Bluetooth devices that are hooked up to the radio into the thing. All sorts of information can be obtained from it.
And we were able to obtain that information in this case from Mr. Bryan's vehicle.
We were, yes, sir.
And that's turned out to be important in your investigation?
There was what I consider to be relevant data on that, yes, sir.
Well, were you present? I can't recall. Were you present for the reenactment?
No, sir, I was
Mr.
not.
Bryan?
No, sir, it was not.
Was there some difficulty ascertaining the path of travel for Mr. Bryan when you were conducting your investigation?
For us, yes, sir, we were attempting to piece together the various statements and of where people were and how to travel, which is what I outlined earlier. So we were having difficulty doing that.
And with the map, you did your best, but even for a trained police officer, it is hard to articulate the chaos of that day.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And is chaos a fair description of what was going on out there that day? One vehicle was going one way, another vehicle was going the other way. They're not in communication with one another?
I would say, I don't know if I would use chaos, pursuit, hunt, something along those
Those
lines.
were the words you would use.
That's the words I would use, yes, sir.
Okay. We'll come back to that.
I didn't hear the
Yes, sir.
words.
I don't know if I would use chaos, pursuit, hunt, something along those
Those
lines.
were the words you would use.
I would say, I don't know if I would use chaos, pursuit, hunt, something.
Pursued, hunt. Are you kidding me? That's what you would use, not chaos, pursued, hunt. Man. Now see, the DA's probably over here going, oh man, that's good. That's the way to stick it to him. Yeah, keep singing our motto. Keep getting that out there. Wow. 37 minutes. I got to go to part 11. Hang on.